what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
Come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite.
Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians.
Governments don't live together, people live together. From governments, you don't always get a fair word or a fair fight. Well, I've come here to give you either one, or get either one from you.
That is totally taken out of context.
Well, not really.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up,
T-minus 1 minute.
live out the true meaning of its creed.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
T-minus 50 seconds.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr.
Every dollar released from taxation
T-minus 40 seconds.
that is spent or invested will help create a new job.
Chivalry is dead, and women killed it.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines.
T-minus 20 seconds.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground and in the streets.
10, 9,
We shall fight
8,
in the hills.
6,
We shall never surrender!
3, 2, 1, 0.
All right. What?
We're on. We're
We're on. Okay, cool. I was waiting for the point, man.
I did.
For those of you that don't know, Cody always goes 3, 2, 1, and then he points, but I didn't get the last point. Anyway, welcome everybody to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today got a pretty cool show planned out. We're going to ask if the Nevada caucuses are indeed doomed. But before we get started, I got a game. I'm curious who out there, Drake Wheeler asked, Jesus Christ, who made the intro? I did. Thank you. And I'm very proud of it. If you have any suggestions, though, I am open to them. Anyway, here's a game we're going to play. The first person that can tell me what team this jersey represents. All right. The first worldwide cultural person that knows what team this represents gets a free Problem Solver Politics hat. All right. So just hit us up in the chat and let us know what team this represents. And you get a hat. In the meantime, we got a super chat from JE that says Cody is cute. Is he single? Cody is single and ready to mingle. He likes long walks on the beach. He enjoys 80s and 90s romantic comedies, and he's very sensitive. In fact, he enjoys writing prose and poetry. While running it by his significant others, seeing if it speaks to their soul and their needs as a woman.
Hold on a minute. I was single, but now I'm writing poetry to my significant other. Interesting person, I guess. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit today about, and then we'll get into Cardin's.
Hey, by the way, three-putt.
It's got to be Argentinian, right? Or Venezuelan.
Yeah, three-putt. I don't know. See, right now we've got a problem here. Three-putt bogeys says Boca. And the team is Boca Juniors. Mike M says Megatone. No, that's the sponsor. Rick says Boca Juniors, and he spelled it wrong. But Drake Wheeler says Boca Juniors. Boca is what they say in Argentina as slang, so I think it's got to go to three-putt bogeys.
Very good. So congratulations.
Okay, congratulations, three-putt bogeys. You nailed it. Super right behind you, though, was Drake Wheeler and Rocker Dax. Dennis Jimenez. Wow, so many people know what this is. Yeah, this is actually old school from when Megatone used to sponsor them instead of Quilmes.
Call them throwbacks.
Yeah, these are throwback jerseys, man, right here. But you want to know the story behind it or no, Cody? It's kind of cool.
Behind what?
Behind the Boca Juniors jersey. It's considered the greatest soccer team in the world.
Well,
no, Boca Juniors will actually defeat entire national teams.
I guess
it's one of the two most popular Argentinian teams, but
I definitely I would believe they're one of the most dominant teams in the region and one of, but it's so hard to say the best because there's so many leagues, right? Like, who is the best?
I bet you that they could take Manchester United in a heartbeat anywhere.
What about the Spanish team that had Messi and Ronaldo?
That's going to
Barcelona. They're pretty good.
Yeah, that's going to be the.
They're a pretty dang good team, huh?
Yeah, that's come on, I forgot the name of the team that's out of Spain. But yeah, no, but Messi's Argentine, and he played in the Argentine leagues before he got the big paycheck in Spain.
He blew it in the World Cup for Argentina.
Some would say yes, some would say no. I think he's a nice guy and an honorable dude.
Didn't
so
he
I
have
like
a chance
Messi.
to score a goal to save them in one of the final games? And anyway, I know nothing about English rules football. So
yeah,
we'll have to move on.
So anyway, is that a shoddy heat shield on the mic? Not a heat shield. It's actually a plosion protection that's meant to keep me from popping my peas when I talk too proudly.
I think he means in the mic arm, and that would be, yes, a shoddy heat shield.
Oh, this right here?
Would be indeed one of those.
I thought when he was saying, a shoddy, like a shotgun. I thought he was saying shoddy as in it's shoddy work and it's
so
bogus.
That, with a couple D's, yeah.
Oh, no, yes, because you know how Eminem said my words are weapons? And the left always says words are violence. They jump the shark. But I like the idea that words are weapons. So, yes, this was actually taken off of an LAPD Winchester Defender when they decommissioned the Winchester Defender in the LAPD. And it was a breech gun that was meant to blow off the hinges of doors. And it was also the third and fourth rounds were open choke, wide shot rounds that could kill hostage takers inside. And I bought the gun. It had been used to ice about 13 different people when I purchased it. And so I took off the heat shield and then I put it on my microphone to always constantly remind me that words are weapons.
Oh, Andrew Haunted. Anyway, though, before we go on too much nonsense.
But the jersey shirt, though. We got to tell the story of the jersey shirt.
I thought you did.
No. So Boca Juniors is also one of the oldest teams in the world. in the 1700s, early 1800s, there was a bunch of kids. They actually probably looked like you. You would pass off as an Argentine in a heartbeat, Cody. 85% of the population is Spanish and Italian. So anyway, they were sitting on the docks by where their field is that would end up being the Boca Stadium, and they were undecided on what their color should be for their uniform. So they all placed bets, and they said, the next ship that comes into the harbor, we will craft our uniforms out of the colors of that flag. And the next ship that came in was a Swedish trade vessel. So they have the blue, the Swedish blue.
Oh, on camera,
the yellow.
it looks more Lakers, but in person, you're right, it does look blue.
Yeah, so this is just like the Swedish flag.
I was about to say, I'm like, what Laker flag they fly in 100 years ago? But no, yeah, it does look blue in real life, for those of you who are watching.
So Victor Olivares says, you guys don't know anything about soccer.
I know,
Come
I said that.
and play us, dog.
No, I said that. I know
Come
nothing
and
about
play
it.
us. You know?
That's why that's why, hold on. Let's talk about something I know just a teeny bit more about. Not much, though.
Real Madrid, that was the name of it. Duh, Real Madrid.
Okay,
I'm such an idiot.
I think I said I knew the team exists. I know some of the names of the big players. I know Ronaldo's in great shape. But anyway, we're going to talk about, I want to talk about the Nevada caucuses there 2 days from now, which would be Saturday, which is still weird to me. I don't know why they're doing it on a Saturday, but hey, I'm sure there's some reason which I don't know. Anyway, first thing I want to go through I thought would be fun. So the Las Vegas odds makers set the line. So we'll look through and see what the odds makers are saying, and then we'll go through and talk a little bit about the potential issues we could be seeing, or perhaps the potential for a very smooth and open caucus that goes through very well. Anyway, let's check out some interesting numbers here. Now, these are the odds to win. So here we go. So odds to win the Nevada caucus, you can see Bernie Sanders at they list some very confusing people who don't gamble. You can definitely tell they're listing them in descending order. So Bernie Sanders is the best odds to win, followed by Joe Biden, it appears, then Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and then Tom Steyer at 100-1 odds. Like I said, I know that isn't good. You don't want 100 odds, but that is to win. I would agree. Bernie Sanders probably is the walkaway favorite here. I mean, I believe, like, honestly, don't bet in Bernie Sanders to win Nevada. If I'm reading these numbers correctly, you don't get anything. Like, you might as well have just not bet, even if you win. So that's very interesting, but this is what's fascinating to me. Check out what the odds are to win the nomination in 2020. Michael Bloomberg at 7-5. Now I did a little brushing up to make sure I got this exactly right. What 7-5 odds referred to is basically if there was to be 12 elections, Michael Bloomberg would win 7. I believe what they're saying odds wise. So like, holy cow, is Vegas saying it is all Bloomberg? Now Bernie Sanders 2-1 is very good odds, but
what
still,
did I say? What did I say on our last video? Man. What did I say on our last video? You can't underestimate the power of money, and I said that he would walk away with 5 states.
Be careful, though. Elizabeth Warren, for a very large period of time, was the runaway favorite in the odds. Runaway. It wasn't even close. It was like no one else was running. Well, we know that's not the case anymore. For a while there was, but I just wanted to go through to give you guys, because to be honest, yes, this is basically what I expect to happen in Nevada. I would be absolutely shocked if Bernie Sanders didn't win. Joe Biden probably has as good odds as anyone, but I would not be too surprised to see Pete Buttigieg also overperform and maybe be in second place. We have a super chat really quickly from Remy D. It says, what Star Wars movie is Yang's phase right now? What do you think?
Empire Strikes Back.
How?
Because in the first movie, they beat all the minor bad guys and the establishment was put on notice. The rebels actually were able to defeat the first Death Star.
It's not the first movie.
I think, okay, the first real movie. All right. I think he's in episode 5 right now. Why? Because finally the establishment, Darth Vader, fought back. The Yang Gang is in retreat. All right. Andrew Yang has been defeated in the original battle of fighting for president, but he's not going away. He's not killed. He's going to ruminate for a while in the media. He'll hone his skills. He has yet to meet his Yoda. He will meet his Yoda. Okay. We don't know who his Yoda will be. Maybe it'll be Rush Limbaugh when he retires. You know what I'm saying? But he's going to meet his Yoda. Okay. Gain skills
what were the first
while
3,
practicing
though?
in the swamps and then come back to defeat the Emperor.
What were the first 3?
Well, the first 3, I mean, chronologically in terms of production, like the ones that came out in 1979. We're talking episodes 4, 5, and 6, the original Star Wars, A New Hope. So he's in Empire Strikes Back right now. That's where he's at right now, is Empire Strikes Back.
I don't know. I would say he's I think he's still in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. So I'm traumatized from those first Star
I was
Wars.
corrected. Hold on one second. I'll bring up something again. I have spent probably hours trying to make sure I don't get things wrong when I bring up gambling odds, and I get them wrong every time. So let's go through a few corrections. Chris Heath said if 12 elections were held, he'd win 5. So I was close, but I got him backwards from Michael Bloomberg. And then according to a Rick, shout out Rick, by the way. Shout out, I like that, just Rick. He said that for every $5 you'd bet, you'd get 7 back. So a couple corrections right there, because like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I'm Mr. Vegas here. I vaguely somewhat understand things enough to try to look them up, but even then I get them wrong. Either way, though, I do want to highlight a couple things because there is some other stuff that pulls out. As far as, yes, if the smart money would definitely be for Bernie Sanders to win. He'll probably win the state. And it's very interesting to see Michael Bloomberg as, he's around still when it comes to winning it all. And Hillary Clinton for a while, according to some people, is going out. But anyway, I want to get into now what's probably, I'm not going to say probably, but what is feared to happen in a couple of days here in the great state of Nevada. So we'll start off right here with, now this is an article from Politico from a few days ago, but it's titled "A Complete Disaster, Fears Grow Over Potential Nevada Caucus." Now, Cardin, I don't think you watched most of the Iowa caucuses. However, do you remember what happened for the most part, right?
Well, I was there caucus night. Is that the one that I streamed by myself?
No, I think it came in a little bit later and then leave a little bit earlier. But still, it was a ridiculous long night. But you remember what happened then, right?
The absolute disaster, you mean? And how you and I stayed up super late waiting for the results and they never came in because the results didn't come in for a month? Is that what you're talking about?
What do you mean? Yes. It was an issue because they were using, as I was in chat, It was an issue. They used a reporting app from some company called Shadow that was paid money by a bunch of Democrats. It didn't work. It collapsed. It was all bad news. Anyway, there was one other party that had given this company Shadow money to make an app for them to do their caucus with. That party was the Nevada Democrats. So the Nevada Democrats obviously are scrambling and freaking out and have been for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, however long it's been since that caucus night. And they have been trying to figure out what are they going to do now. And here's a few big problems. Now, I want to go down a little bit. It's a really funny article, but this is what I thought was really funny. So we go here. It says, one volunteer who has worked on past caucuses in Nevada said the Google form that will be used to input vote totals wasn't even mentioned during a training session for precinct chairs late last week. We weren't told about it. We weren't told at all about it, the person said. The iPads weren't discussed until more than halfway through the presentation, the volunteer said, when someone asked how early vote totals would be added to the totals compiled live at each precinct. The person leading the training said not to worry because the iPads would do the math for them. There were a lot of old ladies looking at me like, oh, we're going to have iPads, the volunteer told Politico. The reason why I brought that up is because earlier I said that the Nevada Democrats don't want to use the app they purchased, so their plan now is to use a Google Doc. Anybody who works at a small business that's trying to maybe save money probably is very familiar with Google Docs and how they function.
Hey, can I have the username and password that I looked at over the shoulder of some elderly volunteer that didn't realize the importance of this iPad? Can you write it in? Let me turn on my hearing aid. The password is Democrats Rock. Democrats Rock. No, it's secure. It's secure. Okay. Thank you, young man. Thank you. And next thing you know, Zoltan has taken away the election. Andrew Yang's candidacy from the grave has won the election. Bernie unanimously took the state, even though he's fighting with half the unions in town. I mean, come on. I don't know. I foresee, Cody, all kinds of problems. And whenever efforts as important as a caucus are underway and people are scrambling this close to the caucus, there's no way that people can be confident in the results because there's too much transparency as to how unprepared the people were. You know what I'm saying? If a contractor shows up to your house to do a bunch of repairs and he's at the door and he's telling his buddy like, oh, shoot, hey, did you bring the router? Oh, well, we need that. Oh, wait, you don't have the right type of glue? Well, crap, that glue didn't work last time. Oh, hey, Mr. Ellis, how you doing? Yeah, we're the best in town. You know what I'm saying? That's the crap you don't want to be hearing when they show up to your house.
Well, hold on. This is what happened. But as far as just getting back to the idea of the caucus in a few days, they're going to have some tech problems. Maybe they'll be okay. But this is what stood out to me was this part of the article. And I'll post a link here for you guys to read. This was cracking me up. So here we go. The volunteer received no hands-on training with the iPads before handling one physically for the first time at an early voting on Saturday, so week before the caucusing. As a result, the first 2 hours of early voting were, quote, disastrous, the person said, as volunteers struggled to get iPads to function properly and connect to the internet. That was, when I read that, that's when I was like, oh no, it reminds me of a Kelsey Grammer. He was trying to explain... Kelsey Grammer was trying to help America bribe FIFA so we'd get a World Cup about a decade ago. Didn't work. And he fell off the stage when he was walking away. And he just went, oh, dear God, and fell down. Sometimes I think about that sound in my head. When I read that people in the Nevada early caucusing couldn't get their iPads to connect to the internet, that was my oh, dear God moment of, this is probably not going to go well, man. If they can't, because connecting them to the internet, by the way, according to all these documents, do is count stuff up. They were talking about, because they bring up also the fact that most of these Wi-Fi signals are not secure at all. Like some public libraries' Wi-Fi isn't very secure. People can hack into the stuff. So the federal government's suggesting they use something else. They're saying we're going to use mobile broadband devices because that's the
better.
Next best. It is according to the federal government the next
slightly
best compromise.
Because there's a basic amount of encryption.
It's harder to hack into someone's phone. It's also harder to prepare for. Right? You don't know whose phone it's going to be. It's not the library I know is where the caucus will be held at. But it seems that there will be some technological problems. However, in the last few days, there has been some steps taken to perhaps avoid this. Because, again, what happened in Nevada, the big issue in Iowa, I apologize, was they were having issues. One, a lot of people were just saying they were not going to use the app because they didn't know how to use it, like we're seeing here. A lot of people, I'm assuming it's the I can't get my iPad to connect to the internet crowd. They're probably the ones who said, yeah, I'm not using an app. I'm going to call in. As a result of that, and then the app not working, and the app sending wrong numbers, call-in lines crashed, and basically it took a month. I think they were literally announcing Iowa result totals a couple days ago, like final delegate counts in Iowa, which is just absolutely crazy. But now it appears in Nevada they're scrambling to come up with something better. But Cardin.
Yeah, what? I was responding to Nathan Butcher in the chat, who was arguing that Anakin learning to fix small things on a small scale in the prequels was actually where Andrew Yang is right now. So we were just, I was complimenting him on.
Oh, Yang's definitely in the prequels. He's definitely not out of the prequels.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It depends what so is, but the problem with the prequels, is Yang Darth Vader? You know what I mean? Like.
No, because he's always been benevolent.
So he can't be. So is Yang Obi-Wan then? Maybe Yang's arc ends in the fourth film then.
Dude, this is a really good question that could go deep. That could go deep for a while. Izzy B's just happy that we're still live because a lot of people caught us after the stream last time. So, yeah. Anyway, what you were going to ask me? You're going to ask me a very specific question.
Well, no, I was just going to ask you, as this continues to roll out, are you still, how do you feel about caucuses now, I guess, is my question. You're big in the idea of caucusing before, but how do you feel now?
Okay. I feel that caucusing is a lovely tradition that I think everybody should experience once. It's kind of like the running of the bulls. Not everybody can do it. All right? Not every city can pull it off, but somehow there's this little city, I don't know if it's Toledo, Spain, or where it is, but they still do the running of the bulls, right? And it's an awesome cultural experience that you just have to do once in your lifetime, right? Well, caucusing is great. Definitely not the way that every single municipality should handle their elections. Unless at this point you want like Antifa to show up and start burning things and then Patriot Prayer fighting with them in the parking lot, all right? But there is something not glamorous, but there is something very authentic about having to show up to a place.
Romantic? Is that where,
something romantic. Yeah, that's the word. There's something romantic about having to show up to a place, and it's like the House of Commons, in England, where it's like, here, I bring a spirited defense to the floor. You know what I'm saying? There's just like, there's something romantic about caucusing, but it does have to be done right. And if you don't do it right, people are going to revert to the same boring ways of participating in politics that
how about this? Did you know that
are hackable? You can't hack a caucus.
But did you know that the Baseball Writers of America, I think that's what their association's called, when they vote for the Hall of Famers for baseball, they don't even release those ballots. Like, they don't have to, and sometimes they don't. A lot of people won't release their ballots of who they had on and who they won't. But for some reason, when I go to vote for my party's nominee in the primary, I have to stand in front of everyone in my community and justify to them exactly why I'm voting for this individual. I just don't get it, dude. I don't know why the baseball
why don't you get it? That's true leadership. That's
I don't know why they don't have to reveal who they voted for to be in the Hall of Fame, but I have to justify to my barber and my bagger that I am definitely
that's like
voting
the Viking days, like Joseph, son of John.
They didn't have.
Why are you there?
There wasn't
because this man represents the will of the Highlanders. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, those weren't democratic republics, man. Most of those places were just kind of like ran pretty much from the top down. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of voting. I mean, it's kind of one of the reasons why we vote. It's one of the reasons why.
No, that's gumption. That's guts.
Did you ever stop to think why most places you vote in private? Almost
Dog,
always.
I was a missionary for 2 years in a motherfucking uniform with a white shirt and a tie on and a plaque. Man, you could tell Mormon missionaries from 30 miles away. People would come up and scream in my face, "Andate la miércoles, Yankee de." Of course, they weren't saying miércoles. They were saying a much worse word for those of you that speak Spanish.
I like how you won't even curse in Spanish. Like, no, there's probably maybe like 10% of people in the chat will speak Spanish and understand what you're saying, but the majority of people probably have no idea.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
So anyway, like I'm used to having to be loud and proud about what you believe, baby, and I think that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Because if you're not, I don't know. We're rewarding weakness when we don't have caucuses.
All right. Well, and I think caucusing is not wise. I don't like it. I think it's something that it's ripe for corruption and abuse, and it appears to be abused all the time. You know what I mean?
Okay, wait, but how is caucusing is not ripe for corruption? Because in order to be counted, you have to physically show up and be there. And then there's the realignment and then the final count. And any bargaining that's done is face-to-face, out in the open, completely transparent. And at the end of the day, you count the people in the room. You can't cheat the vote. You can't find a bunch of ballots like they found in Minnesota when Al Franken, that supposedly lost by... had 1.2 million votes, and then his opponent had 1.2 million votes. But 8 days later, they found a trunk full of ballots from this, Somali immigrant community of, we can't verify these addresses, but here's their ballots. Everybody must count. Boom, he wins. You can't do that in a caucus. We just had to clean out our voter rolls here in California, and after the election, they found 150,000 names of people who possibly had been fraudulently hacked in order to vote. 150,000.
Okay, but California's got a bunch of people.
That doesn't happen in caucus systems because there was 85 people in the room.
Okay, you know what does happen, though? You have stuff like 2016's caucuses in New York and Nevada where people claim that they're just being improperly ran and shenanigans are happening. They're recounting when they are recanvassing when they shouldn't be. Like, just... there's always objections, but I don't know. And anyway, though, here I want to get into this because I hope I explained to you guys a little bit of what's going on with the fears around Nevada, the fact that they have this app, it got scrapped at the last second, so now they're using Google Sheets to do a presidential primary election, which is nonsense. Sorry, what was that?
I was just going to say that Mike M. brought up a good point against caucusing, though, that I would just like to say there's nuance to. He said, but flipping a coin, though.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Hey, flipping a coin is a valid way of deciding perfectly equal arguments. But once again, you have to do it right. You can't go like this.
No, okay, but that's not even
that's what the kid did.
Okay, but you do realize that I think there's people for the most part won't accept if there's a coin flip to do a tiebreaker for who plays who in the playoffs in a baseball. Like people won't accept a coin flip then. A coin flip to decide potentially who's the president next is just kind of whatever, sure. We'll decide a county and a coin.
Would you rather have a coin toss or would you have your buddies trying to scratch out a bunch of fake ballots and say that you found them in an immigrant community
fake ballots
in the middle of Milwaukee?
Fake ballots. Anyway, super chat from $5 from Jay Watt. Says Cardin was a missionary. He's never brought that up before ever. This is definitely the first time. Yeah, well, for the new viewers, in case they didn't know, they don't know all the.
I don't really talk about it. I talk about my time in Argentina.
All the Cardin canon.
Okay.
But anyway, here we go. So NPR recently did an article talking a bit about what's going on behind the scenes. So they said Nevada Democrats, hoping to avoid a repeat of the fiasco of the Iowa caucuses, hosted an hour-long briefing with reporters Tuesday night in which they walked through a mock caucus. Jeez, man. I love how they have to be so transparent. They're like 4 days before the actual caucus, like, here is a trial run of our caucuses, reporters. Please write articles telling people it won't be a disaster. Anyway, reporters got a look at the actual caucus day worksheet and posters that will be in use in the much fretted about iPad calculator that will help with the caucus math, and that party leaders hope will speed up the integration of early voting numbers in the state, which hold its caucuses Saturday. Also, another one of the things I want to add here, one of the reasons why this has been an issue is previously the DNC was just would just ask for kind of final tallies from each individual caucus location. Who won? What's the breakdown? This year, Democrats asked for the first alignment, second alignment breakdown, as well as that final count. And that does add a little bit. Like for example, in Iowa, they've been doing caucuses for how long? They hadn't been reporting all 3 data sets, I don't think, at least routinely, ever. I mean, that had never been a requirement. So there is some reasons why some of this stuff is a little different than we've seen in previous elections, though. However, they mentioned in this article as well that earlier this month, the Iowa Democrats held their first in the nation contest, yikes, in a process that was tarnished by not only a coding error within the smartphone app, yikes, used to conduct canvases, but also by a backup plan that was poorly communicated and executed. And Nevada's had, thankfully, 3 weeks to make sure this isn't how it works. But anyway, first of all, though, Carden, before we go into this,
yeah,
what did you think about for a while, I remember the Nevada Democrats said, we will not be using any app of any sorts at all to do our data calculations. Then it turns out where it's like, well,
they lied.
It's like a browser-based it's like, okay, but like technology's involved. That I think was I don't think the contention was that it was an app that was designed. I think the contention was that there could be errors in the coding, right?
Yeah. Or that there could be a link in the chain that could be hacked. If you're using an iPad, even if it is a Google Doc, I mean, you want to talk about Russians hacking an election. It takes a lot more hackers to run a misinformation campaign that is funded in some district by the Ukrainian or the Russian government. It takes a whole lot of hackers to pull that off, more than it takes one guy in the lobby who hacks the Wi-Fi connection and then just starts altering the Google Doc in real time whenever somebody else makes a change so that the person he wants to win wins. It's like that famous student, I think it was at USC, that had gotten a key to the computer lab. It was the legacy key, it was called. And it was the key to the computer lab where all of the professors put in the grades. And it was passed down in the dorm from like one senior to another senior. And they told you how to log into the computer so you could change your grades. And then finally, after 10 years of getting away with it, they got busted. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, we are talking about a way to cheat the system that's so rudimentary, frat boys in the 90s could figure it out. Okay? So you can't tell me that with all of the media push that the failed Iowa caucuses had, and with how much they have shown about how they're going to run the Nevada caucuses, you can't tell me if you were Putin, you wouldn't just be like, you send intern with computer to go hack Nevada election. They're using Wi-Fi. Even I know Wi-Fi no work. That's totally how this will go down. It's going to get hacked. They're going to fail, or else they'll have to make up results, or we won't get results until like 2 or 3 in the morning when we should really be getting them at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, no, and first of all, we have to find out. I think the biggest thing on these things always and someone pointed out here, someone said in chat that as a developer, they said that it being a more mobile formatted web server application instead of an installed application increases security. And I agree. I think I don't agree. You've said that, and I've seen other people say it. So yeah, that does sound about right, man. That there is people are saying, at least it's not an app. At least it's a website that's easier for security. But the larger thing is, this is the biggest thing for me on this. We mentioned in the last article, this idea that there's people that don't know how to get their iPad to connect to the internet when apparently you don't need to connect to your iPad to the internet to using anything. User error is the reason why I don't like going to digital stuff for this, because it's always there and it's always a problem in general.
Well, do you
but
remember
then
when
people
you
who
switched?
don't care to learn and don't know how to use anyway, right?
Well, yeah, because here's something else that nobody else has really thought about. It's just like Andrew Yang when he talked about the fundraising point of view of the debate instead of just the performative art point of view of the debate. And everybody else on stage that's never ran and never actually been a candidate all of a sudden had to shut up and sit and listen because they've never thought of it this way. Well, I know these boomer volunteers. They're lovely, great people, and they're convinced that their party's going to save the world. And so year after year, they show up and they run election booths. They show up and they block out their calendars so that Bethel and Eddie can come, and then they can sit behind the desk and count all the tallies at the caucus. These are great people, but I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but do you remember smartphones that used to have buttons like the Palm Trio? Where it was like a keypad that actually had buttons, or the Blackberries. Do you remember the Blackberries?
Of course, I remember. Do you remember the Sidekick 2? That was a good phone.
Yes, exactly. Do you remember, though, when you first switched to the iPhone, how it was like fat fingers and you were constantly misspelling things and getting frustrated?
I was fine.
Well, you were fine. It took me a solid 2 or 3 weeks
to
finally get used to this.
I texted on T9 Word for years, okay? When I got to go to an actual keyboard, trust me, I was happy.
Okay, fine. At the end of the day, are you going to tell me that one of these 65 to 75 or octogenarian volunteers is going to more effectively, at a higher percentage, plug in numbers on that awkward keyboard of an iPad more so than they could hand fill out a paper ballot?
Man, well, let's go through.
We're introducing into the chain technology somebody that it's begging for a problem.
Yeah, here we go. Here's some I guess demos of what's actually going to look like. So it's been on the screen for a while, but we'll walk through a little bit. They have a couple other screenshots down here as well. So basically the way it's going to work, and yes, it is a website. So they'll use their iPads, and there'll basically be a on the homepage a link to, you tap on the shortcut and it'll just take you to, looks like the pre-saved calculator website. They will then log in there. Then basically, and it gets a little bit weird here, but essentially it looks like they're going to have something on the iPad, the website, that's going to look basically the same as what they have in their worksheet, and they'll be simultaneously inputting them together just to help get the information there. And then similar to the Iowa Democrats, they will have the paper backups. That way, if you do accidentally fat finger, 50 votes instead of 5, they will be able to go back and check. But yeah, I don't want to be rude. Not necessarily an age thing, but there are people who can't figure out how to do a lot of stuff in technology for whatever. I think part of it's just too, they don't really know how, and they're just like, why should I bother learning? And they don't. But that's going to be an issue always. Like I said, we saw in Iowa a lot of people just from the beginning say, not using the app. I'm going to call my results in anyway.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Here's some interesting facts. Borden got back to us with some details. He's a web developer. And it looks like so is Kevin B. Kevin B says, someone just going to show up to caucus with fake Wi-Fi app with the same SSID and do man-in-the-middle attack. I've heard of these man-in-the-middle attacks before.
That's hilarious. But yeah, exactly. It's probably not that hard to spoof random public libraries' Wi-Fi, especially if you know where it's going to be. You can get there ahead of time and set it up.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, I hope those iPads are also VPN. Yeah, virtual private network. But you're going to have to be paying per iPad, and whatever boomer thought this up.
Also, I love this. I brought this before, but I love whenever you're spending someone else's money. Gotta be iPads. Really? iPads to go onto a mobile website? Like $40 Android tablets aren't capable of this? I don't know. Maybe there's some extra security stuff to iPads, but do you really need the high-tech gyroscope and all the nice cameras and what is it? Don't they advertise having I thought the glass over the lenses on iPads was like sapphire glass and stuff. Do you really need all that for something that connects to a website? It could be a laptop, intense. Really, at that point.
Hey, well, Borden says you can dump an application from a phone and reverse engineer the code inside of it to find weaknesses. Yes, that's what they did when they were trying to find the terrorists' information in the San Bernardino attacks. They hacked it 2 days later in Jerusalem, I believe it was. Anyway, with server, all the code is hidden in a cloud instance somewhere, much harder to get to. Okay. At the end of the day, this is like hacking technology and types of attack and problems that even your average layman has heard of and is aware of. I can't even imagine how much hackers must be licking their chops at this.
Even
you don't think that'd be bragging rights to say, I hacked the Nevada caucuses
but here's the thing.
and made it so that Patrick Duvall won?
No, because Deval
Deval Patrick.
Who's that? But no. Well, first of all, hacking it. Like they're still gonna have paper ballots. They'll be able to look and say, well, they'll do it in Iowa, and they'll use the paper ballots instead. So one, it's kind of dumb to hack it. Aside from just wasting time. Like I said, I'm more concerned with just there being another big issue on the night of the caucus, or the final tally night tomorrow night or Tuesday night. 2 nights from now, which is Saturday. Holy cow. I would just be more afraid, like I said, of like a user error is the nice way of putting it, but people who just don't understand what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Honestly, what happens if somebody comes and opens up the iPad app for them and they're putting in their couple of things on the thing and somebody accidentally bumps the lock button? I mean, like, there's so many ways. Somebody in the chat just said they've had to explain to their clients how to open up another tab in their browser. I mean, like, not everybody understands. I actually had this problem a little while ago. I was showing a old woman trying to teach her how to use computers, and there was things, like, I told her, oh, yeah, just go right-click. And she said, what do you mean right-click?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much stuff people just take for granted because they use these things all the time, where if someone doesn't know this stuff, it isn't easy to give someone who's never seen an iPad before and just say, oh, you just tap on, like, the little icon and it takes you to the website. Like, they'll be like, what does that mean? And then you log in. They'll look at this screen right here, and they'll say, what do you mean I log in? You touch the box. What box? The rectangle. Which one? Oh, wow, what keyboard comes up? Like, there is some people at that stage, and I just don't. It's one of the reasons why I think paper ballots are fine to use, unless they don't want to use volunteers, and the party itself wants to send out, like, deputy digital polling directors to each one of these areas to run this portion of it, because it's just asking volunteers to just say, oh yeah, by the way, learn how to use this app, and not app, but learn how to go on the website, use this thing, put your stuff in properly, and do it quickly and accurately so we get the votes in quick. It sounds great. I just don't see it happening. All it takes is 5 people fat fingering numbers, and it might delay the results by a couple hours.
Yeah, and I know you're an Android guy. And I've got my Apple Alter.
Not an Android guy.
Right here. Okay. Well,
I actually don't know how to use Android-based mobile devices.
Oh, really?
Yeah, whenever someone hands me one, I'm always
okay, well, I know you're definitely not an Apple fan.
I like iOS.
And you're a PC guy.
I like iOS.
But T-Dot says Apple is more secure than Android. I agree. And Borden says Android tablets are a piece of cake to break into.
Oh, probably. I mean, maybe
so Borden sounds like he'd be like a really fun friend.
Maybe there are security reasons, though, for why they have to use iPads. It's just funny to me. They're like, oh, I need my $700 iPad with the front-facing and rear-facing cameras to go to a website. It's like, okay, maybe security. I don't know.
Dude, that's funny. So, by the way, Talking Politics must be an original Apple gangster, because he says, oh, you mean command click. You know what I'm saying? And oh heavens, I hated those days.
Don't they still have a command? There's still command click.
Oh, you can still command click, but they've been able to right click for like a decade now.
Because it's just better.
Yeah, it's just better.
It's just smarter.
It is just better.
Because here's the thing: you can have a right click, and like you said, there can be a right click, a command click, a shift click.
So Kevin
click.
B does bring up a good question. I wanted to ask you this because I don't know the answer to it, but I'm pretty confident you do, as the oracle of this show. And just as a wiser person than me. I haven't mentioned specific IQ, just general wisdom.
My IQ is 56.
No, because then you'd be a Democrat. Boomer joke. I'm a dad, I can say him. What did they use in 2016? I don't recall this being digital in 2016.
It wasn't in all areas, A. And B, remember...
And by the way, didn't
I understand,
each precinct do their own way?
Well, so as far as I understand, the main difference, too, we had in 2016, I think a lot of them were not done digitally, but the bigger difference we had was I think the Democrats are only asking for final tallies. That was it. So it was one set of numbers you had to get, so there was just less issue to get one set of numbers. Even then, there was Hillary Clinton supporters calling the police on Bernie Sanders supporters in the Nevada caucus in 2016. It wasn't smooth necessarily in 2016, but one of the reasons why they're able to get results a little bit more, there was less drama, is because there was one set of data that each caucus reported. Just easier to not get mixed up as opposed to 3.
Okay.
Especially also because you have to deal with something that happened in Iowa a lot. I don't know if this was something they thought about enough. The numbers all of a sudden start looking really crazy and screwy because not everybody hangs around after that first alignment.
Yeah.
So you have to go back and verify that even though the numbers are different, they are the same as the paper ballots, and it becomes a mess.
Yeah. So anyway, we got a couple of questions here. They're pretty good. Rick says paper ballots are the only real large-scale tamper-proof way of voting. I disagree.
That's how they did it in New Hampshire, and it was fine.
Well, no, I know it's fine, but to say it's tamper-proof is an absolute lie. We've had plenty. Like, it's easier to forge a paper ballot than it is to forge a digital signature in many instances. You know, I mean, everywhere, every type of voting has its tamper.
Yeah, but like the problem with digital stuff is people can do one thing they can do in digital, which we saw happen in Iowa potentially. It could have been a coding error, but you don't even have to like put in false results to make the wrong person win. Sometimes you just got to screw around with the results enough to keep things confusing, keep things delayed. Yeah. You don't have to necessarily change the outcome as much as just add confusion. And that, because I just here's that I definitely think paper ballots, there's less of a question of, with digital results, you're always going to be wondering, well, but like, were those manipulated at all? Like, are those, for example, whenever they have any online poll, when Doritos has an online poll over the best Doritos flavor, you have to wonder, are those legitimate results I'm getting here? You know, it's part of digital stuff. It's just that option's out there. It could be manipulated in some way or the other so much easier, just because it's harder to physically manipulate 50,000 ballots than it is digitally. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this is something, though, that I definitely agreed with Andrew Yang on, in the idea that we need to make Election Day a national holiday so that people have it off so they can go vote. You know what I'm saying? Because if as long as in-person voting is an option on the table.
Don't most states have a law that employers must give you time off to go vote?
Okay, yeah, but see that. But then there's all kinds of.
It's like you legally have a right to go
then you
vote.
come into the universality argument of universal basic income. Like, well, aren't there already existing programs that can give food stamps to poor people? But it's better just to have a universal program.
But here's the thing, though. It's like, you can say Election Day is a holiday. Guess what? We'd probably still be doing this all the same. Like, Election Day is a holiday. What does that mean for people who are, like, self-employed carpenters? They don't care. Like, people that are busy because life's busy aren't going to say, oh, well, gee whiz,
I'm not saying
thankfully
it's going to
bank
solve
holiday.
everybody's problems, but I'm saying I do believe.
I
Look,
don't know.
we're celebrating national holidays for anything now.
Really?
All right. Oh, my gosh. Pride Month starts. And the whole world turns into a rainbow for like 6 weeks.
Who gets work
and we
off,
only
dude?
get.
It's not a real holiday. It's like a celebration.
No, but accommodations are made, and I think it's okay to say that we need to make accommodations or give it national half holiday or something.
Dude, putting months aside to for a certain like thing, like there's, I think February is also Black History Month. That's not a holiday, dude. That's different than like Columbus Day or like Valentine's Day.
First off, how dare you?
Which,
it's
by the
Indigenous
way,
Peoples Day.
By the way,
California.
Valentine's Day, you don't get time off for Valentine's Day. I'm pretty sure you work through St. Patrick's Day. I mean, like, there's plenty of holidays you work through anyway. I mean, I think the better way of doing it is not the better way, but I definitely think just making sure everyone has a right to not be forced to be like. If you're busy because Election Day is on a Wednesday or whatever it is, I don't know what it is. Let's say you're busy that day and you legitimately can't make it to the booths. That's one thing. I definitely don't think your manager should be saying, sorry, you don't get to vote today. There should be laws saying they can't make you come in. They can't fire you for voting instead. But
yeah,
dude,
but it creates a kind of awkward. I would never want to pit one employee. I would never want one employee to be thinking that if I don't vote today and I go to work and work all day, I will be perceived as a more dedicated employee than my fellow colleagues who leave and go do their civic duty. Okay? I would never want to put an employee in that kind of quandary where they think, do I choose my career and the perception of my culture at work, or do I choose to go do my civic duty? Civic duty is a basic, we can give ourselves a half day. We can give ourselves a half day.
What does that even mean, though?
What do you mean, what's that even mean?
What does it mean?
We universally declare a national half-day holiday.
But what if I just say, you know what? I'm not going to vote, and I'm just going to take a time to work.
Okay, fine. Then you're a great overachiever. And by the way, you're like one of the lowest propensity voter friends I have.
But that's what I mean.
So it would change your life
a lot.
a
It's not because I'm overachieving. It's just because I don't want to vote, perhaps. You know, like I'm just saying that, like, I don't know if it needs to be a holiday. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't think it's necessary. I think as long as there's protections so nobody feels like they can't vote because of work, then why does it have to be a holiday? I don't.
So we get some interesting questions here. Eric Costin says, I'm still, and that's kind of a cool little rainbow emoji. I've never seen that one on YouTube before. So I assume this is his statement of I'm still gay. Interesting. I don't know what that means, but that's a super sick emoji. I like that one. John G says Cardin is right. If you work in a corporate environment, I think they meant to say, even if they're legally bound to let you go and vote, the corporate culture and pressure from higher ups will make that law useless. Because it's a cultural phenomenon.
Okay, but what if you say this? You know what? I'm going to risk maybe not making it to the polls just to show up and work on that day anyway. I'm going to work from home that day. I'm going to get ahead that way. Dude, corporate culture problems, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there is this. I only because I've read a couple articles about it. I think in Japan, they have like a corporate culture kind of thing where it's implied there's unpaid overtime that you like you're staying late and not getting paid for it. You know what I mean? Like that is a corporate culture thing we see there. You pointed out here, dude, just people will be working from home just to be like, oh, this guy went and voted. Well, I did X and Y. I mean, yes, someone's always trying to get ahead of you problem of like some corporate culture things. I don't know how you can. I don't know how the federal government resolves it. I really don't. Especially on one day every 4 years. I mean, I guess from that argument as well, if once every 4 years you get a couple hours off, but it just feels kind of goofy.
Hey, you know how there's that classic story where NASA spent like $3 or $4 million making a pen that can write in space, upside down, left, right, everything.
Yeah.
And then people always mock it, saying the Russians just used a pencil.
Something like that.
I feel like I just totally got flexed on by Matt Wiz. He says, can't you just vote on a Saturday or a Sunday? We vote on a Saturday in Australia.
Yeah. They vote on the Caucus Day, and they get around in
so
Nevada.
Here we are arguing about federal holidays and corporate culture.
It's a great point he made.
And the Aussies like, hey, mate,
Saturdays.
We all vote on
Weekends.
Saturday. We wake up, we feed the chucks,
and even
we go vote.
Even then, if you want to talk about the problems with corporate culture, there'll be someone working Saturday to get ahead. Like, you can't get around that problem. I don't think the federal government holiday can solve it.
Yeah. So, anyway, AJ Cardin Rants, Cody, STFU Cardin. I wonder what that means. What does STFU mean, Cody? No, I'm just kidding. I know that one.
Okay. I was about to say, you didn't know it's it was the name of oh my God, John Cena's finisher for a while.
Really?
Yeah, it was an STFU.
Oh, dude, I didn't know that. John Cena. So my son is running around the house now, and if I'm sitting there leisurely watching television for like the 1 minute a day I actually have a chance to do that, he'll run and he'll jump up and he'll go, John Cena! And he'll like try and do some kind of like body slam.
Your kid's a John Cena fan now?
Yeah, apparently he's a John Cena fan now. That's what YouTube Kids has done to him. And I get body checked regularly in the name of John Cena.
If your kid was to have any, trust me, John Cena is one of the better role models for kids.
Okay, I believe that.
John Cena he's John Cena, man.
Rock on. So Matt Wiz says, ride the kangaroos to the voting booths. I assume he's speaking with humor. And Rise Storm RS says, I live in Germany. We vote on Sundays. Oh, that's a bummer to have to like vote after church. That would suck. You know what I'm saying? Have to go to some like voting booth. Anyway, Japan and America are completely different. Yeah. I assume, in terms of voting and...
well, I think he was talking about, I brought up, and there's a corporate culture idea of in Nevada, in Japan, of like implied unpaid overtime stuff. You have to work.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think it's just the...
So what's running on this? So I think it's going to be... Actually, you know what? I don't know if it's going to be a disaster. I can't. Sometimes I'm convinced it's going to be a disaster. Other times I think, there's too much writing on the line and they're going to have to get their crap together. What are the odds of it being a disaster, Cody? What do you think? And what are we going to bet on it?
I still think as long as technology is involved, as long as technology is involved and there isn't like staff designated to be using it, there will be user error problems. And I think that will lead just to at least delayed results at the least. Hopefully delayed results is all we have. It looks like Bernie might win comfortably enough in Nevada where even with confusing delayed results, they'll be able to call it. But I think there will be user error of any technology implemented in that kind of wide scale. I just don't see how it couldn't happen.
Okay. If this is true, I have a newfound respect for John Cena, and he's like one of my favorite people. John Cena, according to Rick, we'll have to verify this, but he says John Cena has a record for most Make-A-Wish appearances.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Oh, man, that guy's got a heart of gold, man.
On top of that, he's a tremendous in-ring performer. A lot of really great matches, working through injuries a lot of time.
Really?
But he's also was hated because he's also a notorious... he thought the best thing almost always was for him to win for the fans, and people didn't like. He got booed a lot, but he's a good guy.
Okay, cool. So Victor Perez asks, how come you guys don't talk about Trump and criticize him for better or for worse with about 10 question marks? You know what I'm saying? And actually we do. It's a little bit more incidental. We definitely started out following the candidacy of Andrew Yang, but right now we're kind of following the rest of the Democratic primaries that he participated in until obviously the general election. We're definitely not avoiding the topic of Trump, but it's just on the Republican side of the election 2020, we already know what's going on.
Yeah, well, and
You know,
also,
Trump's going to be the nominee, and we'll be definitely talking about him a lot more once the general election.
Well, yeah,
comes.
and he's the president. What has he ever done for me? Nothing. He can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. I don't like. I just don't. I don't feel like there's any like.
Hey, that's my boy.
I don't feel like there's any like what's the word I'm looking for? Like lack of Trump commentary. I don't know, man. Anything you want to hear about the guy is out there on the internet somewhere. I think that's the other part where it's like there's nothing I really feel the need to be saying out loud about Donald Trump at this point. It's been said by somebody on some level. I don't really have to interject what I think about the guy at this point. It's out there, man. People think what they think about him. I don't care. I'm really just sick and tired of it. You know what? Want to know what I think about Donald Trump? I think Donald Trump doesn't deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I think it's kind of a shame that he is in the WWE Hall of Fame. But you know what? Drew Carey's in the WWE Hall of Fame, so whatever, because anyone gets in.
Drew Carey's? Oh, dude, you know, now that I know anybody gets in, Cody, if I ever make it rich and famous, I will make it a lifetime goal to get you in the WWE Hall of Fame. I will get you there. Even if we have to do some kind of celebrity performance.
That's all you have to do. I think Stan Kroenke's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Dude, I'll get you in, dog.
The billionaire owner of the Rams and the Denver Nuggets.
Dude, I'll get you in, man. I'll get you in. So anyway, Fire Rocket is asking any update on the Zoltan interview.
Well, we need to.
Yeah.
You know, let's try to get that
there was
settled.
a date that we talked about, but then some dates got bumped around and stuff. We're definitely, his people are in contact with our people. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to make that happen. And I actually got... I
think we've got to reach out again, dial, get it nailed in again.
Yeah, exactly.
Our first plans fell through. Just got to do it again.
Yeah. And sometimes on our radio show, actually, we interview a lot of these guests for our terrestrial radio program that goes out on the airwaves on FM 98.1 and doesn't necessarily make it onto our YouTube channel. So we'll definitely have to make sure that if we're doing any of these guest interviews that we post them also simultaneously on this channel. So, all right. Did you answer my question about whether you think it's going to be a disaster or not?
Yeah. So as I said, I don't know about disaster. I think there'll be issues from volunteers using whatever technology they have to use. There will be issues. We'll be inputting stuff wrong. The only thing that maybe might prevent the disaster would be if Bernie Sanders does walk away with a 20% lead over anyone else. That, you know, like, because Iowa also, another reason why Iowa was such a disaster was the final vote tally was like a half a percentage point separating the guys, so they couldn't really call it until they're like 100% reporting. If Bernie's got a 20-point lead with 70% reporting, you know what I mean? Maybe even if there is some issues with the other 30%, they can just kind of call it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't want it to be like in the banana republics, where when polls close at 10, you know, at 3 o'clock they come in and they say, the lead of the dictator is insuperable, which means what's it called? Insurmountable. You know what I'm saying? We are now shutting down all voting booths. It's like, okay. Nobody believes it and they all go home. But yeah. So anyway, Steve Orberding asked, do you guys think you could get Yang on now that he has some, quote, free time?
Maybe easier, probably, because I'm running for president. We'll probably still have to chase him down, hunt him down to get him on here.
Yeah, but also I'm really curious if he's going to have some kind of...
He's the CNN political analyst now. He's a big shot.
It's probably actually harder to get him now than it was as a candidate.
He's a bigger shot now than he was before.
Well, he was
just a presidential candidate. Now he's the CNN political analyst.
But he also probably maybe has, like, you have to run by appearances, like we have the rights of first refusal, or oftentimes there's clauses about, like, you know, they want to limit your exposure, your media exposure, to mostly CNN.
I think that's also, though, if you're like Chris Cuomo or Anderson Cooper. I don't think if you're a part-time analyst that it works that way, right? Yeah. Like obviously it makes sense for them to say, hey, Brian Stelter, we don't want to see you running around in every network all the time. You're a CNN employee. But for someone like Andrew Yang, I would assume it'd be different.
Yeah. Borden asked a good question. Then we got a super chat. He says, are there any stats on what age technological literacy begins to drop off on average? I don't know of any stats specifically with technological literacy, but I'm very aware of a lot of the stats that have to do with learning.
Well, also, I think
and
that's
when we
almost-
stop growing brain cells to the point of when we actually start losing brain cells, there actually is a definite bell curve on that.
But I would say the bigger thing for technology, I think it's more. So it's more, I wouldn't say career-based, because I know people that are in their 70s who've been updating technology since they started working on computers in the 80s. They're probably in the minority. Most people weren't. You know what I mean? Like, I also know people basically my age who basically know how phones work and nothing else. You know what I mean? So there is a little bit of like a breakdown of like, because there are people that are 40, 50 years old who probably know nothing, but there's also a lot that, you know, work on a computer 5 days a week and kind of can figure the way out around them, you know?
Okay.
I mean, I would just say it's tough on an age basis because there is kind of both those things, right?
Yeah, but also I think that's part of the reason why the Yang Gang was able to grow so quickly and also be so youthful is because Andrew Yang came across as technologically savvy. And that's a huge problem that anybody but, oh my gosh, I don't even know if Pete Buttigieg, I think he's actually younger than I am. Or no, he's 2 years older than I am.
He's 37.
Okay, so he's 1 year older than I am. And he comes across as pretty boomer.
Well, but he's also like a Midwesterner and like a Ivy Leaguer.
Yeah. So Ryan Lewin says, where's that girl who used to help you guys? Actually, she always helps us, generally on Thursdays. This week's live stream was a little bit different because she was on with us for the election live stream yesterday when Cody was out on his date with the Victoria's Secret supermodel.
Debate live stream.
Yeah, the debate live stream.
Election live stream.
By the way, how'd your date last night go?
Oh, yeah, it went great. Thanks for asking.
So anyway, and yeah, she is my wife, Brittany. Anyway, in the super chat, you already read the super chat?
Hindsight is Yang 2020 smart CNN exposure for 2024. I like that, man. Sorry, I want to make sure I get the name in there. That was Christian Piet. I can't pronounce it. Either way, thank you very much, man. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah, and Sly Cactus says, stop surprising me with the live streams. I can't handle the awesome. Thank you, Sly Cactus. I really love this dude's little emoji thingy too. In fact, I think that's pretty awesome. I would totally do that. So anyway, now here's the big question, Cody.
Mm-hmm.
Is I want to readdress this because there's a lot of people that have jumped into the chat that haven't talked about it. But I think Bloomberg, and by the way, feel free to ask questions here. If you guys want to interject or you have anything that you want to ask us here, we got about another 30 minutes left before we finish. Any topics you want to handle, just make sure you throw them into the chat right now. I think, and I feel a little bit doomed saying this, but I think Bloomberg's going to run away, gonna run the table on this thing, and his power to purchase influence in these Super Tuesday states is going to be quite astronomical to such a degree that we don't even like. I think he's going to explode because right now people are looking at him as like a chump that didn't participate in the first, 2 to 4 states, not even on the ballot in the early things. He just barely showed up on a debate stage, but he's already dumped $300 million into his campaign, almost $150 million of it into just advertisements. By the time he shows up to Super Tuesday, he will have dumped more money. Actually, no, he's already surpassed how much money he spent than the entire Barack Obama presidential candidacy spent. Okay? So we have not seen the effects of that money on a large scale because polls aren't really polling the Super Tuesday states like they are the early states. So we're not getting any of the early indicators of his success, and we won't until Super Tuesday comes. But I think Super Tuesday is going to be the rudest pro-Bloomberg awakening we never saw coming. I think Michael Bloomberg will blow our minds away on Super Tuesday.
I don't, but
well, why not? See, I just said why I think he will. And I
because
want to
people
know
don't
why
like him.
you don't think
I
he will.
don't think people like Michael Bloomberg. I don't. That's why.
Because you don't like him.
No. I don't think enough people do.
Oh,
Not like
okay.
what I like. I don't think enough people like Michael Bloomberg to vote for him. He's basically a Republican. When he was on the debate stage last night and he was talking with Bernie Sanders, he essentially was just bringing up, like, a lot of times they like to smear people as saying right-wing talking points. What Bloomberg was saying was literally right-wing talking points. Now, some of them I didn't think were necessarily crazy or necessarily wrong, but I'm just saying, like, they weren't what you would expect to hear on a Democratic debate stage. I mean, it really, it did feel like, Pete Buttigieg had a great line when he said, well, why don't we start off voting for someone who's actually a Democrat? Because, yeah, you could argue Bernie Sanders and Michael Bloomberg aren't Democrats. Whatever the party is, it's not them. And I think that's why I don't think Bloomberg's going to win. I just don't. Maybe if he performs way better on debate stages, but that was the first time a lot of Americans really got a face-to-face with him, and it was awful, dude. He looked like a moron. I was like, how is this dude worth $50 billion? He looks stupid. Now, at the end, I saw a little bit of it. Like I said, there was that one moment when he was barbing with Bernie Sanders, and he said something like, wow, what a wonderful country. The world's most famous socialist, the millionaire. And that was a little bit of his personality came through. I mean, honestly, to me, in debates, what I'm looking for the most is people that are going to stand up for what they believe in and let their personality shine through on the debate stage. That's all I'm really looking for. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think Amy Klobuchar is growing on me in debates, because that's all she does.
Yeah.
But like Elizabeth Warren.
But she always is so self-congratulatory as she pulls back and laughs. She's like, and then I told him Nancy Pelosi does it every day.
Yeah. No, well, oh my God.
She's already like laughing at her own joke.
She told the Post-it note joke, I guess, twice. When Elizabeth Warren accused her of being able to fit her policy on a Post-it note, Amy Klobuchar was like, well, Post-it notes were actually invented in my state. It's like, what does that even mean? And she got a laugh from the crowd, so later on in the interview after the debate, she pulled that same thing out. Amy Klobuchar is also the worst, too, when she's one of those people when she tells you a story, and then they said this to me, so I said this back, and then they said that, so I said this. It's like you're just like telling me a conversation you have with someone. It isn't a story. There's no interesting part here. I think that's why Buttigieg, I think one of the reasons why I hate Buttigieg, not hate, but whenever I see him on TV, I don't want to vote for him, is because I can never get a read on who he actually is. I don't know what that guy acts like in real life. I don't. Okay. Maybe he acts like it in the debate stage, but I don't know if he actually acts that way. But there's
super chat.
We have a $5 super chat from Jonathan Trejo saying, Bloomberg and Sanders aren't going away. Biden's fate will be determined by South Carolina. What will be the determining factor for the other candidates?
Great question.
I think Tom Steyer, as one of the commenting or analysts on CNN said last night, Tom Steyer is apparently running to be president of South Carolina. So I think Tom Steyer might actually be top 3 at least in South Carolina, if not second place in South Carolina. That could really harm Biden. I think what's really going to be telling Buttigieg how he performs in Nevada and South Carolina, because if he continues, remember, technically, if we were to like really put a lot of weight into the delegate count right now, he's leading in delegates. Like, he's technically the winner. If for whatever reason, they always say, in a sporting season, they'll be like, if the season ended today, they have a 15-game lead. It's like, if the season ended today, Pete Buttigieg is the Democratic nominee. How he performs in states that aren't 98 or 95+% white, that's telling. For a lot of candidates, I would say, for example, Bernie Sanders performing well in New Hampshire, which is very white, isn't that big a deal for him because he doesn't have a weird demographic breakdown like Buttigieg does, where he pulls at like 0% with African Americans and like 3% with Hispanics. It's really weird and atypical for other candidates running. So if he can survive in Nevada and South Carolina, and if he's done enough in these debates to change it, then I think bad news for Amy Klobuchar. Inverse happens though, and he does. It looks like he overperformed in the whitest states because that's the support base. Then I think there's a chance Amy Klobuchar can push Pete Buttigieg out. Like, I think we're going to learn a lot from the Nevada caucus if it comes out clean. Because, that's what we'll find out. Is it Buttigieg or Klobuchar who's going to represent that kind of centrist bend? In South Carolina, we find out if Biden is finally done or not. I don't know. And then Warren's another wild card because I think that debate, I don't think it did. She raised a lot of money off the debate. Is it enough? Will she continue raising money? I don't know, man. It really is interesting. It's really weird to see what happens here.
Okay, so
and then I want to get back to before we finish too, talking about someone asked a while ago now. We've been kind of talking around it about the last question they were asked at the debate stage last night. So we'll get back to that in a minute as well.
Well, we just got a couple of questions. First off, one of our fans says Cody's shirt's got more potential to upstage whatever Cardin says. And Dad Isn't Mad asks, should we donate to have Cody unbutton one more button?
No, please, no. Thank
I'm if Dad Isn't Mad,
please don't
became a member. We might just have to make you do that.
No,
Cody.
please don't.
No, I'm just kidding.
Please don't.
Cody is like morally opposed to anything that remotely smacks of trying to get attention online using his hunk of a Tinder smoldering body. So anyway, Borden says something interesting. Actually, no, I won't even read that. I do want to get down to my side of that. That, man, they're really loving your shirt, dog. Oh, this is hilarious.
Told you, it's a great shirt. I like the shirt a lot. It's
man.
One of my favorite shirts.
Jeez. Okay. So anyway, I would be intrigued. To interview an African American supporter for Pete Buttigieg, and just see like
good luck finding one, man.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, he's claiming a lot of this support, and it's supposedly been faked. But there's got to be one out there. You know what I'm saying? And so I would be curious to see. Okay, what is it that you see in hopes for this guy? You know what I'm saying? And I would like to see what they're dude, man, we're getting a lot of people that want to donate. Cody.
No, like I said, please
you're
do not.
Better than an e-girl, man. I'm just kidding.
That's what I mean. No, I tell you what, I appreciate it, everyone. Please go. Anyway, moving on. How about this? Somebody asked earlier about this was the last question asked on the debate stage last night, and they asked every Democrat, and the way Chuck Todd asked it was kind of awkward, and I liked it. It was funny, but it was pretty awkward. So they asked every Democrat on stage if they would side with, or if they would agree that the Democratic Party should allow the process to play out if at the convention there is one candidate with, they believe they word it as the plurality but without the majority. Meaning if Bernie Sanders is 32 and nobody has more than 30, he would win. Even though 32 means 68% of people didn't vote for him, it would still be
Donald Trump ran the board in 2016 in a lot of these states with pluralities instead of majorities.
And then as far as also, just to be a little bit, do a mini history lesson, because I gotta be frank, couldn't tell you anything besides this. John Kerry was the last Democrat to come out with an absolute majority at the convention. Now, the reason why that's really crucial is because the way the Democrats have this set up is if you don't have a majority at the convention during the first vote, there'll be a second vote, but this time superdelegates will come back, and superdelegates are basically appointed delegates. They just decide who gets them. And it was kind of funny. Do you remember this? Do you remember this happening in the debate stage last night when they asked him this?
Which thing?
It was the very end of the debate when they asked all of them. Chuck Todd even said,
"You mean should when Bernie went on his rant about I believe the will of the people should be represented
before that,
and it was a yes or no question about
but Chuck Todd asked them all, do you think that the process should play out, or whoever has the plurality, should they get the nomination?
Well, everybody said let the process play out.
He said, Bernie, we'll get to you.
Yeah, we'll get to you because I already know.
We all know your answer, and it was like, dude, it was like a mafia moment where they basically just like let you know, this is exactly how we're gonna screw you. It was a little bit creepy how all of them. You could tell Bloomberg, he's not one of them. He didn't have his line rehearsed. All of them had the line rehearsed. Like, I think oh my God, what is the quote? I think the process should play out, something like that. They all said the exact same thing, one and just down the line. I think we should, I think the convention should work its will. Was that the line?
Yeah.
Every single one of them said that, like they were prepped ahead of time to basically say, hey, this is when we let Bernie Sanders know to his face, this is exactly how we're going to do him. We're going to make sure it's contested, and then we're going to appoint superdelegates to someone else. I thought that was really, really funny. It wasn't, like I said, it was a little bit gross the way Chuck Todd was like playing with them. Yeah. And he was like, well, Bernie, we'll get to you last. Well, we all know what you're going to say. And it's like, why is Bernie Sanders the only one who's going to say that? And it's like, because he knows that's what they're setting him up for.
Well, also, Chuck Todd is part of the establishment, so it was kind of very arrogant and condescending to be like, look, I know what you, the peasant, thinks. I know what you, the outsider, thinks about our system, but let me go ask the other people we take seriously first. That was Chuck Todd came across as arrogant. I didn't like that.
Well, no, he made Bernie Sanders stand there and watch down the line. All the other nominees said, yep, I'm I'm going to support this. 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 And then, you know what's funny? Everyone just gave their one-word answer, and then they gave Bernie Sanders 30 seconds to have some, some pointless rebuttal. I think people's voice should be heard, and it's like, it doesn't matter. We're going to do this to you anyway. But also, I was thinking about this. There does seem to be a problem because there is legitimacy. You could say that, there's two arguments here. One argument is, look, if 31% of the vote was the highest amount and nobody else got 31%, technically, would that be the will of the people? Or is that not the will of 69% of the people who didn't vote for them? There is the other argument of well, hold on a minute. Just because more people voted for you than anyone else, it doesn't mean that the majority of people wanted you to win. It just meant you had a bigger support base. And I can kind of see why. And I know the Democrats they're obviously one of the most corrupt institutions, the DNC, in the country right now. And I think my theory is there used to be people that were corrupt and awful and evil, but they were also very capable and knew what they were doing, like Hillary Clinton. And they got ran out of the party, so their stooges are left, like Tom Perez, who only know how to take directions. So they have no idea what they're doing. But anyway, all that aside, it does... I could see why they wouldn't want to be put into a position where somebody could get 27% of the vote and win by 2 points and be their nominee. It's like, oh my God, almost 80% of people didn't vote for you and you're our nominee. This is not good. I could see why they don't want that to happen either. The only problem is, while superdelegates are one way around it, the fact of the matter is, if when you get to the convention, Bernie Sanders is 31% of the vote, that's already the problem. You could try to remedy it with superdelegates, but the bottom line is, you have a party where the best you can muster is barely a third of the party supports the guy. That's the best you can muster behind one candidate, barely a third. That I think is the disaster scenario, but it's also potentially could happen, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk potentialities, yeah, it could happen. I'm just a little bit angry that people are still talking about your shirt in the chat. What does your shirt have that my shirt doesn't have? And why weren't people offering me to take off my shirt? What do you got that I don't got, Cody? Jeez. I feel slighted. Anyway, I do have a question here. Because for the first time ever, Problem Solver Politics, actually not the first time ever, but we were highlighted in a Kim Iverson video. As you know, she's a progressive radio host that also has her own YouTube channel, similar to us, who have a radio show and also simultaneously a YouTube channel, in which she referenced that big poll that we did when Andrew Yang dropped out, where we said, hey, what are you going to do with your Andrew Yang energy now? And I think it got 6,000, 7,000, or 8,000 responses there. And 53% of the people said, I'm just quitting politics. I registered for Andrew Yang. About 16% said they'd vote Trump. A low 20s said they were going to vote for Bernie. But I see a lot of talk in the chat where a lot of people are saying that Bernie couldn't win. And right now, electability seems to be one of the number one arguments that most of the candidates are making. Okay. But as we know, Andrew Yang was the only a candidate on stage that actually had measurable quantifiers showing that his likability was higher in a head-to-head matchup. His net favorability, which was the exact stat, was higher in a one-to-one matchup. So I'm curious, as much as maybe you might like Bernie more because of temperament or because maybe you're one of these dastardly democratic socialists that we hear all about. I'm just kidding with you. But do you think objectively that Bernie Sanders could beat Donald Trump, and why? I'm really curious to think, especially for that quarter of our audience that defaults back to Bernie. Do you think Bernie could beat him, though? We know that right now the race that we're racing for is the nomination, and I think Bernie has earned it. Brittany, my wife, thinks Bernie has earned it. And for some reason, the establishment still keeps coming after him, even though it made him look really, really bad last time. They still keep trying to screw him this time. And I think as a capitalist, as this half of me that's conservative, I think, look, if a man earns something, he deserves it. When I sat in my border review for my Eagle Scout, the only question they asked me twice that they said I didn't do well enough was they said, do you feel you've earned the rank of Eagle Scout? And they wanted me to say, yes, I feel I've earned it. And that's big in conservative circles. is this concept of accountability, where if you do something bad, you will be punished. If you do something good, you will be rewarded. Well, look, Bernie Sanders, regardless of what you feel of his ideology, he has earned this nomination now almost twice. But it looks like they're still going after him. However, if he were to get it, do you still think that he could win against Donald Trump? Not do you want him to? Do you think he actually could?
Well, but I would say the thing with Bernie, that obviously he's running against Donald Trump, so you have to ask that question as well. But I mean, listening to Bernie on the debate stage last night, what he is proposing is people would have to be signing up for a president. It was the very least speaking as if he's willing to change a lot. And I will always err, especially on Americans, any group of people, Americans on top of it, modern American individuals. They'll probably side with the known comfort over that. Because, I mean, Bernie Sanders was talking about things like last night in the debate stage, he was talking about, 20% ownership of every corporation by the employees, having employees in board meetings and stuff. Doesn't sound that crazy, but that's a pretty radical thing for the federal government to start imposing on businesses. That's something that hasn't really been encroached before.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, some of the stuff he's proposing. It's a big change. And here's the thing I always think when it comes to Bernie Sanders. Let me know in chat if you disagree, but there is, and this is why I think Bernie's running into the same problem over and over again, which is this plurality without a majority. There is, of course, millions and millions and millions of people in this country who would very much not only, want, but also need a lot of Bernie Sanders to be offering in the form of, let's say, tuition-free college, healthcare that's free at point of access, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like no transactions. However, you do have to understand that while I believe that's a ton of people in this country, I do believe it's not the majority. There's a lot of people that do go to college, and they do go to college without feeling the government has to get rid of my student debt one way or another. There's a lot of people that have health care in this country that feel the government doesn't have to abolish private insurance one way or another. And I think that's still the majority. I don't know. I've never heard Bernie pitch that is not the majority of people. I've never heard him pitch anything that says, yes, the people he's talking about would be helped by his plans if they were to be followed through the way he said he wants to follow them through. But what about everyone else? And I think the everyone else, as soon as the everyone else is less than who he's talking about, it becomes a moot point. But I still believe the majority of people isn't who he's talking about. I still believe Bernie's revolution is about 40% of people versus 60, maybe even 30 versus 70. That's not good. If it's flipped and Bernie's revolution is the 70 over the 30, that's different. But while a lot of people do need what Bernie's offering and would really want it, I don't know it's the majority of people yet. I still think there's a lot of people who get by just fine without the federal government changing everything to provide these things to him. I think that's the problem he's going to keep running into. I don't know what he does. Like, I've never heard an excuse for why Bernie Sanders can go to somebody who went to school, paid it off, and has health insurance and says, I want to I want to basically restructure fundamentally how a lot of things in this country functions to give you things you already have. Like, okay. That is a pitch he's making to people, and I've never heard the bridge. Let me know in chat if there's the bridge. But what is the pull for someone who says, I have those things, Bernie? I don't need you to give them to me. You don't have to cancel my student debt. You don't have to give me health insurance.
Yeah.
I still think that's the majority of voters. And I've never heard what his argument to them is. Because here's the thing. Those people aren't saying poor people can't have health care. For the most part, most people are fine with expanding the public option for those people. They just want to retain their private. That's just one thing. But I've just seen over and over again that issue ran into, where it comes, and whether it be debates, whether it be voters, whether it be people who are saying, I like Bernie, but it's that one point, is that I still think he's not speaking to enough people. And it's the reason why revolution, it's one thing if you just have a slightly different idea, it's not that big a deal. If it's like, yeah, it's only 45% of people that agree with him, but he's not really talking about stuff that's that drastic. But when it's drastic, I think you really do need that super majority.
Okay. Jonathan Trejo's got a super chat here. Thank you very much, Jonathan. By the way, what determines the color of the super chat? Because, I mean, this one is bright and orange, and we ain't missing this question, man.
It's a couple things. One, they're random, so you don't have the same color multiple times in a row, I believe. And also, depending on amount, there's different colors, so you could tell by at a glance.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Anyway, Jonathan Trejo asks, why didn't Bernie run third party? He has the support, and he has to know the DNC won't let him win. Amy is the only one bringing up the fact that he doesn't have support in the House and Senate. What do you think, Cody?
Well,
why doesn't Bernie run third party?
He'll never win running third party. He has a slight chance of the DNC just brute forcing his way in. He'll never win running third party. I will say, you know who also asked that question a lot, though? I feel like the Tom Perez's of the world also ask themselves privately, why isn't Bernie Sanders running third party? So I don't think it's like good that he's running Democrat for him either, but it's the only chance he has to be nominated president. Like, I don't see an independent being nominated president. Also, he needs it. Here's the other thing. When you're running as a Democrat, you're running in the party of Bill Clinton saying, hey, I want to expand. You're running in the party of Barack Obama saying you want to expand the public option in healthcare like Obama did, right? That isn't the same as running as an independent who wants to abolish private healthcare. See what I mean? Like, it would make the more radical things he's proposing seem even more radical if they're coming from an independent. Like, this guy it's not even associated with a mainstream political party, and he wants to he's offering radical solutions. That is the other reason why you kind of have to go with a party. You can't go independent, though. Yeah. If you go as an independent and you're too moderate, people will say, why bother voting for you? And if you go as an independent and too radical, people will say, wow, that guy's way too radical. So most people won't do it, I guess. Even Rand Paul and even the Paul family have ran as Republicans, I believe.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, and Ron Paul was actually asked the same question. Why don't you run independently? Okay. And he said, well, then you just can't win. In America, you need to run as either Republican or Democrat. So you need to choose which one of the parties generally more aligns with your views, because you need access to the infrastructure, access to the donors, so on and so forth. So that's what Ron Paul said back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean 15 years ago. Anyway, I got the next super chat by Victor Perez. Bernie 2020. This is the why. He has the most diverse coalition, period. Young, white, black/brown. He also won Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan in primaries in 2016. Okay, this is my only pushback on this. I think Bernie can win. I definitely think that he could take this thing. He would eke out a victory. He would absolutely eke out a victory if he did. And it would mean something abysmally happened to some of these other front runners and Bloomberg simultaneously. But I see a path to victory for Bernie Sanders. However, I don't think the diversity of his coalition is an argument for his potential success. That's just a talking point the left came out with in the 90s that they think carries weight. And that's not to knock on diversity. I do believe many of the slogans about like diversity is our strength and so on and so forth.
The bigger diversity you need is regional diversity to big name nominated
national
president. Like, I think that is the diversity. I do think he's lacking. He seems to have urban, but he is lacking some of that rural and even suburban necessarily diversity.
Well, yeah. And also here's the other thing. When you walk into the Michigan Underwater Welders Union, you know what I'm saying? That has its 2,000 people, and I'm just inventing some union here, okay? But if we walk into the Underwater Welders Union, and it's predominantly 50-year-old white males who got certified in the 70s for this strange trade that exists in super ships that still go through, all of the Great Lakes to Canada or whatever, okay? Probably not a very diverse group, neither in age nor ethnicity, nor socioeconomic status, okay? So the appeals to diversity don't work. The appeals to how you're economically going to represent these people and improve their lives so they can feed their families and send their kids to good schools, yeah, that's what matters. The economic arguments, not the diversity and social diversity arguments. And it's because of the economic arguments, not the social diversity arguments, that he actually won those. I'd have to go back and look up the stats of 2016. I can't remember if it specifically was Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, but I do remember that he won a lot of these contests. And the reason why he won those was because people were investing in him, believing that they could further their economic lives, not because he thought by voting for Bernie Sanders, we'd increase diversity. No, that's not what people are voting for. They're voting for a better life for them and their kids.
For example, I don't think people are just going to win because there's certain demographics that just won't vote for him. Like you need people across the board to vote for you, but I would say beyond that, you also just need that cross-regional support. We've seen it happen. I think that's kind of what killed Hillary. She didn't have support in a couple like key regions of the country, so she would have won the election if she did. I mean, that's the biggest thing when you're running a national election. You need people in all these different states to vote for you, and we saw it happen in Iowa. Bernie absolutely dominated the super dense urban packed areas, but as you got further and further out, Buttigieg just started doing better and better and better. And I think that is, and again, that's what I was trying to bring up before. I gotta say, I don't think Bernie's like a bad candidate. He maybe even could win. It's just the issue I keep seeing him run into is he has this base that, yes, he speaks to directly 1,000%. But anyone outside of that base, he does struggle because sometimes almost everything he's trying to offer, there is a portion of Americans that are going to look at him and say, I don't need you to give me one of those things.
Yeah.
And then he just doesn't have these really strong, I've heard him say some things, but there isn't a strong follow-up pitch, especially when these people say, I don't need you to give me these things, so why don't we set up something where I give you my money for you to expand the public option for those people, and you don't have to worry about paying for my health care, because I'll pay for my own. That's using health care. Same thing with school. People feel the same way. Hey, I'm fine increasing, like maybe, I guarantee you there'd be people that would be fine with their taxes to go up a little bit to increase, one, government grants, and then two, I guarantee people that'd be fine to restructure the way that interest works in student loans.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it has to be free for everyone. People are saying, well, it doesn't have to be free for me. I think actually it was funny. Pete Buttigieg kind of got hammered for that, but he kept saying, he's like, dude, why are we giving, like, free, like, we're giving, not even free is the wrong word, but we're having tuition free and, you know, stuff free at point of transaction for people who don't need us to do this and can pay for it. And that doesn't make sense. Why don't we just have them?
Don't die on us, dog. You can put the camera on me while you work through it, bro. You can put the camera on me while you work through it, man.
I'm fine. But I'm just saying, why not have a system set up where people who are making money and can fund these things themselves to just have their tax revenue that they generate go to expanding government programs for other people? And like I said, let me know in chat if I'm missing it. But I do think that is where Bernie falls short. And it's one of the reasons why he has a ton of support, but just maybe not necessarily that overwhelming majority of support to win a national election. Like, by no means do I think he's like got no chance. He has a good chance of winning. I'm just saying I keep seeing him running into this slight potential pitfall where he'll have a lot of support, just not that majority over the top to run away with it. Where it's gonna be really close because like I said, I have not heard the pitch to the other groups of voters to win them over. I haven't heard it.
Yeah. So anyway, we're already going into overtime here, but we got a really good super chat that we have to address. Jonathan Trejo, thank you for the super chat. $5 super chat. I don't know, Cardin. Bernie has to meet the delegate threshold, but what if candidates hold out to split the vote to ensure the super delegates come into play? Yes. This is a very good point, Jonathan Trejo. And in 2016, I remember thinking you'd see all the belly aching of the establishment Republicans and the establishment talking heads on Fox News and on talk radio and so on and so forth on OAN, One America Network. And they would be complaining about, oh, but Donald Trump won this state, but he only had a plurality, not a majority. Yeah, because you got 15 other people on the ballot, all pulling their 1% to 3%. So he only needs to walk in with 15 to be the guy that wins the plurality. If you guys really hated him so much, and you really actually wanted to get rid of him, and you really feared him as a president and everything, you would pick one of you amongst you, and then all of you would bullet vote that person or would put your support behind that person, and then Donald Trump would have become a byline in memory of a celebrity candidate that got doused and silverback gorilla smashed by the super candidate of the establishment in 2016. But no, each one of the people, whether it was Senator Cruz, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, Bobby Jindal, Kasich, Carson, like you could name them barely on all of your fingers and toes. None of them wanted to be the one to drop out. While they're all saying, oh, but somebody's got to drop out and support him. Okay, you go first. And none of them would because their pride blinds them so much because they're so freaking power hungry, some of these people. So, yeah, Bernie has to meet a delegate threshold. But what if candidates hold out to split the vote to ensure the super delegates come into play? They're already doing that.
Well, they don't even have to hold out.
Like, why is Joe Biden still here? Why is Elizabeth Warren here? Elizabeth Warren's not going to win the presidency.
Well, Elizabeth Warren is in the race because, similar to Amy Klobuchar...
Oh, she's fighting the good fight for the Native Americans and the transgender black girls, right?
One, she's already in the race, dude. She's in here. Like, why drop out if you don't have to? And she keeps performing just well enough at debates. That's how you do it. You hang out at the debates, and she's hanging in the debates. So why leave?
Okay, well, let me just tell you, if none of these people have a chance against Trump, but I mean, put the person out there that has the best chance, and we already got rid of the people that did. You know what I'm saying? In temperament, I think Tulsi Gabbard could do really, really well, but they're not doing anything to support her. They hate her for having endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016, and the economic decision was already made by Andrew Yang. I don't see any of these people performing well against Donald Trump. Joe Biden would get smashed by Trump as the Obama guy. You know what I'm saying? Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, would get smashed. Okay? The only person that doesn't really bring too much baggage to the table would be Pete Buttigieg, but Trump would smash him and run away with the African American vote by simply saying, look, I'm pardoning African Americans.
Well, just by not being Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, I'm increasing the vote. Like we would watch an electoral landslide. I could see a 10, 20 point shift of the African American vote towards the Republican Party.
I don't know about that.
If it were Pete Buttigieg
Remember,
up there.
If Pete Buttigieg were to win the nomination, it would also probably be because he
And
found
then Trump
some
would
way to speak to other good demographics.
He might.
I don't think he wins the nomination if he doesn't increase his support in multiple communities. Like, he'd have to win.
His nickname would be Racist Pete. Donald Trump would call him Racist Pete and say, then why'd you fire the African American fire department guy? Well, then why'd you fire the African American chief of police? Oh, then why'd you lie about the Frederick Douglass plan? Great plan, that Frederick Douglass plan, named after a Republican, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's totally, he'd run the board with him.
Yeah, well, I think he'd more just talk about Pete being very young.
Okay, so anyway, let's just say Pete has half a hope, all right? Warren doesn't, Biden doesn't. We could experience the 1930s all over again and just have classic socialism versus capitalism.
I think if Bernie were to seriously, like, not even full step, if he were to like half step, walk back a couple parts of some of his bigger plans, he'd have a much better chance of winning. I think if he just said, look, I don't want to abolish private option for healthcare. I want to remain a private option and expand public. I think that would go a long way to him winning. I think, like I said, I think if he just eased a little bit off of full on, we're going to have the government, government cover, tuition and all this stuff up front for everyone, as opposed to expanding what the government's offering to people, I think he'd win if he just did that. If we just said, look, we don't have to have tuition-free college for everyone, but why don't I run on changing how awful the interest rates are for these kids, A, and then B, why don't I run on expanding some of the grants people who need the grants more than others? Why don't you do that? Why don't you make it so you don't have to get a student loan, basically everyone, unless you're very, very wealthy, and then have to pay it off in time if you're wealthy enough, and if you're not wealthy enough, you just don't pay it off in time and get killed by interest. Like, there's a lot of ways to fix that system that I think people would rather deal with before resorting all the way to, welp, I guess the government's got to just cover the cost and we'll take care of it with our tax revenue. Like, I think it's all he has to do. And by the way, AOC's done this. She's walked back and said, you know what, we're probably not going to abolish private health insurance anyway. So like this isn't crazy for him to do, and that would definitely make him a much. And you know what? It happens a lot. You kind of go to the polls during the primary and then snap back to the middle in the general. If he does snap back to the center a bit in the general, he would be a legit threat, because that's the only thing I see holding him back is just, I think there'd be enough voters who would just say, sounds nice, but I'm not buying. I think if you were to walk it back so you don't feel like you have to buy, because that's the bigger thing. I mean, it's like, it's hard to be indifferent if Bernie Sanders is going to change fundamentally a lot of things work. It's like, well, you are impacting my life here. It isn't just, it's one thing to say, well, my taxes go up a little bit and, more people are covered by like Obamacare or whatever, right? Like, that's one thing. It's another thing to say, oh, I guess I'm on government health care now. Like, that's, not everyone wants to be on. I feel like I'm talking in circles, and I probably am. I apologize. But I'm just saying, if he just walked it back so people didn't feel like they're going to be on the hook for all this stuff, and it didn't 100% impact them, he'd probably have a really good chance of winning.
Yeah, and I remember in 2016 when I was arguing with a lot of my friends who were even conservatives. They were kind of never Trumpers saying, oh, well, I like Bernie. Oh, I like Bernie. I was like, you support Bernie? Are you nuts? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you crazy? I get you're a never Trumper, but Bernie? And you know what argument they always made, Cody? They always made it. And I realized that these people were just not really in the know politically. They're just like, oh, well, he just seems more presidential. He seems to really care about people, and he seems to be a powerful and impassioned leader. And if you take away the socialism, because at the end of the day, most people don't even know what Medicare for all means. They just think, oh, if I show up to a hospital, it's like an emergency room. Well, they'll figure it out and everybody gets it. Okay, that's cool. You know, 20% ownership of companies. Well, I don't know how companies are run now. So 20% sounds great, whatever. Like, people don't actually understand how these proposals of legislation and their details affect the daily lives of individuals, and don't understand how government truly does interact with their lives. Like, government employees never worry about this. And I swear, a tenth of our economy now is just government employees. And teachers don't worry about this. Cops and firemen don't worry about this. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not part of a corporation other than just the U.S. government. So I think a lot of people don't understand how just temperament matters. Like, even Brittany yesterday said, the one that came across most presidential and adult in the room that wasn't willing to scream and just fielded criticisms of himself decently was Michael Bloomberg. There's a lot of people that are just going to be coming to an argument in a Sanders versus Trump face-off that will vote completely based on temperament. Just completely based on temperament. So I think you're right that if he just rolled back some of his most sharp-edged proposals to the realm of insanity instead of just sheer communist chaos, just a regular socialist insanity instead of sheer communist chaos, then he would do really well just based upon temperament alone.
I mean, I guess like my larger point is most people don't bat an eye. Some do, but most people don't bat an eye when they find out the government's spending more money. They will bat an eye, though, if they find out the government's coming to take things away from them and then give them things they never asked for. And I just think that's an issue. But anyway, I don't want to get too lost in this. It's just clearly I think our discussion proves that Bernie Sanders is indeed obviously the front runner right now. If you're going to have a discussion about anyone's chances of winning, it's Bernie. Why block anyone else? Like, he's obviously about to win. Just put that out there. Not win, but the primary, right? Like, he's running away with it, but I do think it is going to be a recurring issue, just not having that majority, but having a lot of support. But at the same time, if the Democrats really did have a plan, I don't think they'd have 5 people running on I'm the moderate, right? If they really had a plan, they wouldn't have 5 people doing that.
Yeah, I hear you. So anyway, doesn't really matter what you think. We got probably one more minute here. If you got any more super chats in your system and you want to get them out, make sure you send them right now. Any last questions, hit us up right now. A lot of people are concerned about your coughing, Cody, and they're concerned that your shirt's on too tight. And they say if you unbutton just a couple more, that you might be able to breathe easier.
Yeah, maybe in a few minutes.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's funny. So anyway, last super chat here. Actually, not the last one, but second to last, it looks like. Joe Andrews, thank you for the super chat. It says Bloomberg was destroyed by Warren, but did you see how many hands went up when it came to starting a business? 1 in 6, Bloomberg.
Hey, you know why that was though?
Hit it. Are you dead? Is your shirt still on?
That was only because Andrew Yang wasn't on the debate stage.
Yeah.
Think about it. If Andrew Yang wasn't on the debate stage, I started the business. I think, and I because Tom Steyer's a hedge fund guy, right? Did he at one point maybe start a business? I don't know. But think about it. If Yang was on the debate stage, Michael Bloomberg wouldn't have had that W.
Yeah, so Wesley McBob says something interesting. He says, my fear for democratic socialism, that it paves the way for another candidate to push a little farther, and then another, et cetera, into the slippery slope. And I got to say, there's a strong argument for that. Like, for example, it just came out today that the NHS is denying services to people that they deem bigoted, sexist, or racist. So the government now in England is going to implement policies refusing non-emergency healthcare services. Okay. If you got gout and you just got to go in for a regular checkup, well, good luck with that gout. Because we said you're racist. Oh, and by the way, racist means that you thought a joke by
Hold
Dave
on.
Chappelle in the
Hold on.
90s was this funny meme
Hold
on social media.
Couple things. One, this
What?
came out maybe a week ago, if not days. Two, if you have gout and you go in there and you're polite, they will treat you. It's if you say or do things. Now, I do agree. There is room for interpretation, but no, you have to physically do a thing in the place. They can't just say, I know you, get out of here. It doesn't work that way. You have to actually show up to the doctor and then say something that offends the person. Now, I agree. Where does that line be? And like at a certain point, can I get that it's kind of facetious, but I always say, what, as a Dodgers fan, can I refuse service to a Giants fan? But at the same point, like it isn't like, hey, we did a social media check on you. It's still
okay. At the end
bad,
of the day,
but I'm just saying it's not. You would have to, if you show up and you're just a nice person, you're not a jerk. They can't refuse service to you.
Okay, at the end of the day, okay, you're putting all of the control over your health care into the hands of the government. Philosophically, this is
what
bad.
I say is this. What I say bigger is this: if there was to be something like a NHS in America, Michael Bloomberg's plan of banning soda all of a sudden becomes a lot more desirable because all of a sudden, when we're all on one healthcare plan, say this, it's just the other. I'm not even saying necessarily this is a bad thing and this is why they're I'm just saying this doesn't get discussed, I don't think, enough, but it is the reality of it. If we all share one healthcare plan, suddenly everyone's health kind of becomes all of our businesses. That makes sense? Like, if somebody wants to just smoke 9 packs of cigarettes a day and die of lung cancer in their 30s, whatever, man. It's between you and whatever health insurance you have to deal with. But when that becomes a drain on the government, suddenly the government will have to say, well, hold on a minute. I mean, we don't have money and facilities to just treat people that are recklessly endangering their health. We just don't have them. And then suddenly you have to have those conversations. It's one of the other things that is given up when you move to a strictly only public option is you have to understand that suddenly health, like you're not as free to be unhealthy. Because by the way, I'm the most freedom-loving person there is. I'd be all for banning cigarettes and soda if we all shared one healthcare plan. It would save us so much money. Imagine how much money it would alleviate from the healthcare industry if there was no like issues related to just like high sugar consumption related health problems and tobacco and alcohol related health problems. That would save so much money. Yeah, maybe it sucks, but hey, if you want to make sure people that got like real healthcare problems they can't control, then just get lung cancer because they smoke too much. But somebody you got, I don't know, whatever, some genetic illness or something, maybe we should free up funds for them, and maybe we should do that by banning McDonald's. To maybe try to help the heart rate problems. And I'm just saying that's part of it. It's something we don't discuss now because right now it's not really everyone's business. We discuss it a little bit because it's not good. We don't want heart.
Yeah, could we ban Starbucks because caffeine?
How about this? Frappuccinos should have a tax on them. We should be taxing, like there should be like a fatty food tax, or not even fatty, it's unhealthy tax. Packs of cigarettes should cost $55 a pack, but it's just. I don't know. Call me crazy, but I just agree with that, man. It's like all of a sudden we have to start looking at all this. Your neighbor's health becomes your problem. Right now, it's like, oh, it's really unfortunate that guy got whatever illness doing something stupid. But then it gets to a point of it's like, wow, really? How much does it cost the state because you broke your legs paragliding? You really got to paraglide, man? You really got to do that? That's so necessary that it sucks and it's cruel and it's crass, but hey, that's my health insurance that's paying for this. And it's reality, man, and it does happen.
Nathan Butcher brings up a good plan, Cody, in your vein of thought. In 1920, we banned alcohol. In 2020, why not ban soda? Could you imagine trying to bootleg your own soda in a bathtub, Cody? Just so people could get their fix? Having to pour all that sugar, then create carbonation.
It would just be
little
imported.
speakeasies like,
hey, just import again.
You got some grape soda there, huh? Oh, you got the purple stuff. Ooh, that's purple drink with Dave Chappelle on steroids.
We imported from Mexico and Canada. Same as we did during Prohibition.
Dude, I would totally be a soda pop bootlegger as a Mormon. We'd get in trouble for bootlegging alcohol, but I would bootleg soda pop in a second. Even though I hate what sugar does to the body, I'm a hypocrite.
I agree. Prohibitions don't work, so it have maybe and maybe that's how we pay. Maybe that's one way you pay for a lot of these things. You say, hey, look, you could still get like Venti mocha frappuccinos. They just cost $15, and 10 of that goes to the state.
Okay, true.
People would, like I said, dude, you can make cigarettes cost $55 a pack. People would buy them. So people will be put, and maybe that's one way of raising tax revenue. But again, like, it's just, I would have like a fast food, like a fast food tax. Like if there's a fast food window, all the food in that place costs more money and it goes to the government. Like they would be, because I think that's honestly a pretty good way of doing it. Because then people say, because then you could always just point to, which is always the case, which is like, well, food at the grocery store is much cheaper than like Starbucks. So there's not like the government is like denying people access to food by raising the price of Starbucks and cigarettes and milkshakes. Like, I think most people would accept that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, let me know in chat if you would object, but like, I don't know. I would be pretty down with, I even like them, but if donuts cost $5 a donut,
Yeah. So last couple of comments before we go. Cody must have traveled the world. He is very cultured, says Coolao AC.
No, I appreciate it.
Still, a lot of people are very frustrated with how many buttons are on your shirt.
I think he's messing with me, though.
Yeah. And then, Cardin, if you wear a hypnotizing button-up shirt on the next live stream, I'll donate to see you unbutton. Make sure you steal some of Cody's shirts. So, Cody, you just got to bring an extra shirt for me on the next live stream. And then I'll make sure that I take my...
Just go shopping.
My boom.
Just buy clothes.
Boom. I'll just yoke it up before the next live stream and suck in, So anyway, thank you very much, guys, for participating in the chat today. Thank you very much for participating in the live stream. We obviously were enjoying ourselves because we're 19 minutes into overtime. But hey, when it's the good stuff, you just can't stop, right? So anyway, let us know what you guys think. We'll hang around for another 5 minutes in the chat with our cool little fade out gizmo that we got going on here. Let us know what you guys think. If you haven't had a chance yet, please smash the like button. We only got 80 likes. If you give us maybe 100 likes, that'd be awesome. Also, if any of you guys want to join the channel and become members, it's cheap. It's only $5 and you get all kinds of cool behind the scenes content. Individual videos just for you, individual posts that members only see, so on and so forth. So check that out. Follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. Cody is the whiz man on the Twitter machine. All right. And I'm in charge of our Instagram following. You can check us out at Problem Solver Politics on IG. Other than that, this has been awesome. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video. Wu-Tang!